How to make your videos pop using color grading technique in Premiere Pro. Well, here are the 5 simple tips for achieving that pro film look in Premiere Pro. Number 1. Adjusting contrast and exposure. Open Premiere Pro and import your footage. Navigate to Lumetri Color panel. You can find it by going to Color Workspace or selecting Window at the top, Lumetri Color. The Lumetri Color panel should be on the right side of the screen if you're in the Color Workspace. You can find it by going to Window, Workspace, and Color Workspace, or selecting Window at the top, then Lumetri Color. The Lumetri Color panel should be on the right side of the screen if you're in the Color Workspace. If you don't see it, you can go to Window at the top and ensure that the Lumetri Color is checked. In the Lumetri Color panel, you'll see several sections. The basic correction section is usually at the top. Click on the clip in the timeline that you want to adjust, like this. This will activate the Lumetri Color controls for the clip. Use the contrast and exposure sliders to enhance the overall brightness and contrast of your footage. Click on the clip in the timeline that you want to adjust. This will activate the Lumetri Color controls for that clip. Use the contrast slider and exposure slider to enhance the overall brightness and contrast of your footage. Simply click and drag the sliders to left or right to adjust the values. Keep an eye on your video preview to see changes in real time. So in the basic correction section, locate the exposure slider. Click and drag the exposure slider to the left to decrease exposure, which darken the image, or to the right to increase the exposure to brighten the image. Watch the changes in real time in the program monitor. Locate the contrast slider just below the exposure slider. Click and drag the contrast slider to the left to decrease the contrast, which makes the image flatter, or to the right to increase the contrast, which make the image more vivid. Again, observe the changes in the program monitor. Continue adjusting the exposure and contrast sliders until you achieve the desired look. Use small increments to make subtle changes and keep an eye on the preview to ensure the footage looks good. For example, let's say you're working on a short film set in a moody, atmospheric forest. By adjusting the contrast and exposure, you can enhance the play of light and shadow, creating a more immersive experience for the viewer. Then, balancing the colors with the white balance ensures that the lush greens of the foliage and the warm sunlight filtering through the trees appear true to life. Number 2. Balancing colors with white balance. Stay in the Lumetri Color panel. Scroll down to find the white balance controls. In the basic correction section of the Lumetri Color panel, scroll down until you see the white balance controls, which include temperature and tint slider. Click on the clip in the timeline that you want to adjust. This will activate the Lumetri Color controls for that clip. Use the eyedropper tool next to the temperature and tint slider. Move your cursor over the program monitor where your footage is displayed. Click on a neutral area in your footage, which is an area that should be gray or white. This could be a white shirt or a gray wall or anything that should be color neutral. Click on it. Premiere Pro will automatically adjust the temperature and tint slider to achieve a neutral color balance based on the area you clicked. If the automatic adjustment needs tweaking, you can manually adjust the sliders. Temperature sliders, move it to the left to make it cooler or more blue, or you move it to the right to make it warmer or more yellow. There you go. Now the tint slider, move it to the left to make it more green, or move it to the right to make it more magenta. Watch the changes in the program monitor as you adjust the slider to ensure the colors look natural. Number 3. Applying LUTs or lookup tables. While still on the Lumetri Color panel, go to Creative tab. Here you'll find the Look drop-down menu. Click on the drop-down menu to browse through the available LUTs presets. Scroll through the list of available LUT presets. Select a LUT that matches the aesthetic you're aiming for. If the applied LUT effect is too strong, you can adjust its intensity. Locate the intensity or opacity slider, usually below the Look drop-down menu. You can drag the sliders to the left to reduce the intensity of the effect. Number 4. Fine-tuning with curves. Within the Lumetri Color panel, look for the Curves section. It is usually located below the Basic Correction and Creative tabs. In the Curve sections, you'll find curves for RGB, which is the overall brightness and contrast, and individual curves for red, green, and blue channels. Click on the drop-down menu to access the individual color channels. To adjust the tonal range and add depth to your colors, click and drag points on the curves. Experiment with different curve shapes to achieve the desired look. Click and drag points on the curves. Experiment with different curve shapes to achieve the desired look. Dragging the point upward increases the brightness or color intensity, while dragging downward decrease it. As you adjust the curves, keep an eye on the video preview to see changes in real time. Click and drag points on the curve to adjust the tonal range and add depth to your colors. So just click and drag points on the curves to adjust the tonal range and add depth to your colors. Experiment with different curve shapes to achieve the desired look. Number 5. Adding film grain or texture. Switch to the Effects panel. You can find it by selecting Window at the top, then click on Effects. Search the Grain effect in the Effects panel search bar. Drag the grain effect or noise effect onto your footage on the timeline. In the Effects Control panel, you can adjust parameters such as intensity. Scroll down, find noise. In the Effects Control panel, you can adjust parameters such as amount of noise. You can adjust the amount of noise by dragging it to the right. Try to just add a little of amount of noise. Just a little, not too much. Now again, preview the effect in the program monitor to fine-tune the settings.